are well. As you can see from the title, we are on our narrative or story writing week. Okay, let's have a little look at what we're going to have to do. So our weekly aim is to create powerful and interesting characters with ambitious vocabulary, descriptive devices, and the showing, not telling way of describing a character. So we've given you two people to think about this week. We've given you an antagonist or a buddy and a protagonist or a goodie or somebody that you sympathise with. So we are going to particularly model writing the evil character, but I'm going to be thinking about my setting as well. And I'm also going to be thinking about my antagonist. Okay. So the first thing you need to do, we're going to describe your antagonist's appearance, describe how they move, describe how they speak. We might use a short bit of dialogue to show their personality and their manner. We're going to use similes and metaphor, maybe some personification if we can. Personification you can put into it, as you will see when I model the writing to you, but when you're describing people, obviously you might want to liken people to perhaps something else rather than people. And we're going to use specific details to really illustrate everything all the little details about your character, not just saying they're tall, but being really specific with details. Okay, so it says consider your antagonist's appearance, his height, his weight, his age, his face, colour, texture, shape, whether he has any scars, eyes, colour, size and shape. You can definitely go on about eyes, colour, but remember that's not the only thing to eyes. They really are, they really can give you a real in-depth look at what the character's really like. Mouth, lips, teeth, nose and ears, hands and fingers, hair and facial hair, and clothes. Now, you will notice that when I model it, I'm not going to describe all of those things. I'm going to choose about 3 or 4 things to describe in detail. And you should do the same thing. Don't just go through, I need to spend a paragraph describing his face. I need to spend a paragraph describing his hands and fingers. No, pick a few things that you really want to describe and describe those in detail. So I've got my character profile here. And I've just sketched out a few ideas and a few words and things like that. And I used the word bank to help me as well. So when you come to do this, do use the word bank. Even if you don't use any of the words, it's really useful to cast your eyes over just to get some ideas. Now, the picture in the middle of the screen, I should add, is a government official called Chris Whitty. Now, I haven't got anything against Chris Whitty. I don't have any feelings towards him, but I do think he's got the most amazing face. So I'm going to use his amazing face to help me write my antagonist character down. And my antagonist is my baddie. And I'm going to write about something that we all know about, we've all had experience of. We've all had really evil teachers. And I emailed all the Year 4 teachers, Year 4, to ask them about the worst teacher experiences they had. And I am not lying to you. I cannot tell you any of the teacher experiences because they were too horrible and too nasty and too just dreadful. So I can tell you about Mr. Howarth. Mr. Howarth used to have an RE teacher, that's a religious education teacher, who used to hit them on the head with a big black Bible if they didn't get the answers right. That's a bit rough, isn't it? Yeah, so we've all had bad experiences. Hopefully yours aren't as bad as that. Year 4, I really hope not. To draw on my character of my evil teacher. Now, obviously, I'm going to think about the setting as well. So teachers usually hang around schools, unless they're in lockdown, obviously. So I'm going to set this in. It's going to be a little school sort of tale about a teacher and a young boy called Timothy. He's going to be my antagonist, but at the moment I'm going to write about my antagonist. Okay, so here we are. It says, describe his personality. So he's inconsiderate, he's greedy, he's tired, he likes to be in control, he likes to make people feel small. And it says, describe his appearance: red cheeks, blotchy skin, short, dome. Now, I've put the word dome there because I really, really like that word, and I'm going to use the word dome as a noun to describe the top of his head, because he hasn't got any hair on his head. Look at him. And as well as the fact that he hasn't got his hair on his head, but he's got these enormous big bushy eyebrows, just makes him really interesting to me. I think, he's really interesting kind of face. Now, when I was looking here, I thought, he looks a bit like a saggy tortoise, a bit depressed, a bit miserable, like a little tortoise. Now, and I've put here, ears sit perched. Now, ears do not sit, so that's kind of personification, isn't it? So although ears are part of a person, if you use it like that, you can actually personify some of the features of the face. So I'm going to use a bit of personification there. So yeah, they sit perched at the side of his head, I thought. Now, clothes. Now, he has a suit and a tie jacket, which is what most teachers wear. Sometimes they don't always wear that, but sometimes they do. But his buttons of his shirt are straining over his big pot belly. Oh dear. And it says her flaws and strengths, and those are the sorts of things that that's wrong with this person or what's right with this person. Okay. This man, okay, this nasty teacher, he likes donuts. He's always got a coffee cup in his hands. He's always eating and drinking, and when he's shouting, he spits out food and spit and things like that. The last little box, shuffles around unfit. He's red in the face, he pants and he wheezes, he spits and he dribbles. So he's not a very nice person. And the last box, it says describe their background. So I've left that one blank. You can fill it in. It might have some bearing on the story that you're going to write later, but I've left it blank for now. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to put in there, but I've got lots of information there. And I've started my story. So here we are. Here's the start of my story. The new teacher. The door handle opened and a short man shuffled in loudly. He had a faded leather briefcase in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other. Stuffed in his mouth was a pink iced donut, the kind with sprinkles on the top. He pushed the door shut with his bottom and made his way to the whiteboard, like that. Okay, so I'm really happy with that. I've introduced him in 4 sentences, so I've really introduced him there. I've used the word shuffled because it just that I could have put the door handle opened and a short man came in loudly, but I think shuffling is more what this teacher does. I tried to give him, instead of saying a big bag, I've put faded leather briefcase. I might change that actually to, I don't know, maybe something. Faded leather briefcase sounds a little bit formal. Maybe you should just go around with a plastic bag all the time with his lunch in it. What do you reckon? Yeah, I'm going to keep it faded leather briefcase for now, but I think if I were to ever publish this story, I think I might go and change his bag for a plastic Tesco one or something like that. I think the detail about the iced donut I really like, because the iced donuts are cute. They're pink, they're icy, they've got sprinkles on the top. They're very kind of frivolous and silly, whereas this man is going to be so horrible. Why would anything pink and sprinkly be in this man's mouth? Also, donuts are not the most nutritious of foodstuffs. They're pretty pointless to eat, really. They've got loads of calories and not much goodness. And I think this man is all about, he's not about goodness, children. He's not good. So I'm going to go down and start writing. I've just copied just what I've read to you on the next slide. So here we go. Where am I? I've written it all out, so I know what I'm going to write. Right. So basically, what he's come into the class. Now he's got to address the class. So I've got to get him to a point where he's talking to the class. So what do teachers do when they come? They come into the class, they put their stuff down, and they look at you. Okay, and then they start talking. Usually that's what happens. So he put his briefcase down on the desk and faced the class. Put down is all right. Put his briefcase down on the desk is all right, but he's not a very nice man, so let's put slammed. Slammed his briefcase down on the desk and faced the class. He sighed and looked around. Ooh, how can he look around? Suspiciously. Suspiciously. Can't spell suspiciously. Might have to go back and check that later. Now I'm going to try. Now you've noticed that I haven't really described him well. Described him in any great detail yet. That's because I want to describe him through showing, not telling. Now already you've got an idea of a man who's, well, maybe we don't have any ideas of it at the moment. I'm trying to paint a portrait of a man who's very unfit, who eats lots of rubbish, who's not very generous, he's inconsiderate, he's greedy, and he's horrible. So I'm trying to portray that in the way that he eats and stuff like that. But now I'm going to try and portray the way he is through showing and not telling, through using dialogue. So I need my inverted commas. All teachers say good morning, don't they? Most of them do anyway. Good morning. He huffed, because he's out of breath. He huffed. My name is Mr. Golightly. I really like the name Mr. Golightly. I think there's a Mr. Golightly in the Dickens novels, and I just like Golightly. Golightly. The man that it's a frivolous word, isn't it? This man is not frivolous. He's the horriblest teacher in the whole world. So I thought it was good for a contrast. He's not what his name is. My name is Mr. Golightly. And I am your... I'm going to finish there. He's not said a lot yet. But what I haven't said is he's still got the donut in his mouth. So, good morning, he huffed. My name is Mr. Golightly, I'm your new class teacher. So I'm going to say that. It's difficult to tell what he was saying. To understand. Because he was still eating the donut. There's different spellings of donuts. I'm going to use this spelling because I think this one is slightly more correct. Good morning, he huffed. My name is Mr. Golightly and I'm your new class teacher. Capital letter. It was difficult to understand what he was saying because he was still eating the donut. Now, if you're still eating and talking and you've got something like a donut in your mouth, then you will know from all the unit that we did on digestion children that the digestive juices in your mouth, the saliva, just gets more and more. It sort of overacts. So he's going to start dribbling. And it's not going to be pretty because he's a disgusting, horrible man. Saliva was gathering at the corners of his mouth as he chewed and talked. Maybe the saliva could go pink. Saliva, the saliva was gathering at the corners of his mouth as he chewed and talked. Now, my protagonist is going to be called Timothy, and he's quite shy, but he's also very clever. So Timothy's in the classroom. You don't know that, but I know that because I'm writing my story. Timothy noticed that pink saliva had started to dribble down his chin. I think I need Mr. Golightly again, otherwise you'll get confused with Timothy. Mr. Golightly. Right, now, I haven't done a lot of showing and telling there, but I've done a little bit. But now I'm going to start to describe him with adjectives and powerful verbs, similes, metaphors, and maybe even some personification. Okay, so this is my main bit of my description. Mr. Golightly. So the main thing I want to get across is he's quite big, he's quite fat, and he's overweight and horrible. So, had a round face. Mr. Golightly had a round face with shiny purple cheeks on top of a short, squat body. His round face had two pointy ears, perched. I think I said that earlier, isn't it? His round face had two pointy ears perched. Ears do not perch. Birds perch, don't they? We might perch on a chair. So that's kind of personification because you're talking about his ears, which in themselves are not actual living things. They only exist as part of something bigger, don't they? Perched at the side of his head. His bald head was a perfect shiny dome. Now I'm going to go on about his eyebrows now. Do you remember before I said that he had a bald head but big bushy eyebrows? So I'm going to put an although there. That's a good sentence starter. Although there was erupted. Don't know whether that erupted. Although there was no hair on his head, his silver, bushy eyebrows I don't know. Although there was no hair on his head, his silver, bushy eyebrows. Although there was no hair, two silver, bushy eyebrows. That's better. Sat. Again, eyebrows do not sit, so that's personification. Sat on top of piercing blue eyes. I want to get across the idea that his eyes don't miss any little thing. I don't want them to be kind eyes. I don't want them to be gentle eyes. I want them to be really quite piercing blue eyes. Not good. And you can't afford to muck about in his class because he will spot it. His bald head was a perfect shiny dome. Although there was no hair on his head, 2 silver bushy eyebrows sat on top of 2 piercing blue eyes. Oh, and he's got eye bags too. And the most impressive eye bags Timothy had ever seen. It occurred, and this is Timothy's opinion, to Timothy. I'm going to use my rule of 3 here. Wrinkly, fatigued. Fatigue is just another word for tired. Greedy. Right, Mr. Golightly swallowed. Forgotten how to spell donut. Happens sometimes when you get to my age, you forget things. He swallowed the last bit of his donut and slurped his coffee. Right, again, so let me think. Let's just reread that. Good morning, he huffed. My name is Mr. Golightly and I am your new class teacher. It was difficult to understand what he was saying because he was still eating the donut. Saliva was gathering at the corner of his mouth as he chewed and talked. Timothy noticed that pink saliva had started to dribble down his chin. Mr. Golightly had a round face with shiny purple cheeks on top of a short, squat body. His round face had 2 pointy ears perched at the side of his head. His bald head was a perfect shiny dome, and although there was no hair on his head, 2 silver bushy eyebrows sat on top of piercing blue eyes, and the most impressive eye bags Timothy had ever seen. I think that needs an exclamation mark. Go away, please. Thank you. It occurred to Timothy that he looked a bit like a giant tortoise, wrinkly, fatigued, greedy. Mr. Golightly swallowed the last piece of his donut and slurped his coffee. Yep. He's going to say some things now. Now, I really want to get over that Mr. Golightly is horrible and that he likes being nasty to the children. So the one thing he's got to do now, he's going to have to be nasty to some children. Okay? So he's going to talk to Timothy. I think we're going to choose Timothy, so you might be able to see a bit of how Timothy reacts as well. You could put some Timothy emotions in here as well. Right. Now, one of the things that I used to have a teacher who used to say this, I am strict by fair, but she used to go around whacking everybody as well, so I don't think she was very fair, to be honest. But she used to say it a lot. You'll find me strict but fair. So I'm going to use that. Instead of he said, I'm going to put he panted because he's still out of breath. He panted. Now he's going to point to Timothy. Now, you, he said, pointing at Timothy. What have you got on your feet? Question marks. Question. Timothy stared at his shoes and made no answer because he's frightened. He's going to get into trouble. Now, I don't think I need a new line for this. I might put one in anyway. I'm going to put that there was a long silence. There was a long silence, yeah. Pardon? Oh, that's what this other teacher did as well. When a teacher of mine, she used to ask you a question, and if you said it too quietly, she'd go, pardon, like this. Oh, she was, yeah, and then you wouldn't want to say it very loudly. It would be quite intimidating. I didn't quite hear you. There was a longer silence. And, you know what happens when there's big silence? Somebody needs to fill it in a classroom. So there might be a few laughs from around the class. There was a longer silence and a few of Timothy's classmates started to titter, chuckle, and shift in their seats. Timothy knew that Mr. Golightly would not like the true answer to his question. Need a full stop there. And now Timothy's going to talk now. My new puppy Jazz. So the idea that I have is that maybe his puppy's eaten his school shoes and he's had to wear his trainers and his mum's forgotten to write him a note or something. Yeah? You know the sort of thing. Yeah. My new puppy Jazz. But he can't finish it because he's just too embarrassed. Timothy. So I'm going to say Timothy trailed off. I'll give Timothy a capital letter, proper noun, please. Mr. Golightly, in tone. That means he almost kind of sang it. My question was, what have you got on your feet? And your answer should be trainers. So it's being so Mr. Golightly here is showing him that he's a pedant. That means, you know, Timothy hasn't answered his question directly, is it? Has he? He's tried to explain what's happened, but not done it very successfully. So Mr. Golightly is being nasty to him because he hasn't answered the question directly. Trainers. Right, now my idea is that because he's just been eating a donut and he's all salivated up and he's going to shout at Timothy, he's going to spit some of the donut out at him. That's disgusting, isn't it? Yeah, and that's never happened to me, by the way, but we all know that some teachers have coffee breaths and it's disgusting. Yeah. Trainer spat. Oh no, I've done it. Right, I don't need that one too. Trainers. He got closer to Timothy's face. Now, Timothy could smell his coffee breath. Mr. Golightly whispered in Timothy's ear. Now, I need another word for spat, really. I don't think there are many words, other words for spitting. I'm going to have a look in a minute on the thesaurus. Trainers. Spat out the teacher in the loudest voice Timothy had ever experienced. Chunks of donut hit Timothy. Chunks of donut erupted. We'll use that, erupted out of Mr. Golightly's salivarous, gooey, dribbling mouth onto Timothy's blazer and glasses. Okay, I'm going to reread that. Oh, I've read quite a lot, haven't I? Written quite a lot. I have written quite a lot. Time fly when you're enjoying yourself. The door handle opened and a short man shuffled in loudly. He had a faded leather briefcase in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other. Stuffed in his mouth was a pink iced donut, the kind with sprinkles on the top. He pushed the door shut with his bottom and made his way to the whiteboard. He slammed his briefcase down on the desk and faced the class. He sighed and looked around suspiciously. Good morning, he huffed. My name is Mr. Golightly. I am your new class teacher. It was difficult to understand what he was saying because he was still eating the donut. Saliva was gathering at the corner of his mouth as he chewed and talked. Timothy noticed that pink saliva had started to dribble down his chin. Mr. Golightly had a round face with shiny purple cheeks on top of a short, squat body. His round face had two pointy ears perched at the side of his head. His bald head was a perfect shiny dome. Although there was no hair on his head, two silver bushy eyebrows sat on top of piercing blue eyes and the most impressive eye bags Timothy had ever seen. It occurred to Timothy that it looked a bit like a giant tortoise, wrinkly, fatigued, greedy. Mr. Golightly swallowed the last piece of donut and slurped his coffee. Put that in there. You will find me strict but fair, he panted. Now, you, he said, pointing at Timothy, what have you got on your feet? Now, the way I've said that, I think I want to put that into my description. So I'm going to put feet. So I'm going to say, he's going to say it really slowly and emphasising the last T. He said the word slowly and emphasised the consonant end. Capital letter. Timothy stared at his shoes and made no answer. There was a long silence. Pardon? I didn't quite hear you. There was a longer silence, and a few of Timothy's classmates started to chuckle and shift in their seats. Timothy knew that Mr. Golightly would not like the true answer to his question. My puppy, Jazz? Timothy trailed off. Mr. Golightly unturned. My question was, what have you got on your feet? And your answer should be trainers. He got closer to Timothy's face. Timothy could smell his coffee breath. Mr. Golightly whispered in Timothy's ear, what have you got on your feet? A few capital letters there. Trainers, sir. Trainers, spat out the teacher in the loudest voice Timothy had ever experienced. Chunks of doughnut erupted out of Mr. Golightly's dribbling mouth onto Timothy's blazer and glasses. Ooh. Yeah. I think I need a different word for the word spit or spat. So I am going to type in thesaurus at the top. This is going to come up. Is there going to be a... No. So I'm going to write spat. It might not have it. Spat's an irregular verb, and sometimes it doesn't like irregular verbs, but it does. Falling out food. Spat. You see, it's got the word spat here, but spat's also got a double meaning. Spat actually means a fight as well. So I'm going to put the word spit in. You do it? Spit. Discharge. Drool. Slaver. Spittle. Ugh. Oh, swap spit in a sentence. Yeah. So the words we've got is drool is a nice word. Dribble, spittle, sputum. Okay. So if I go back, drooling instead of dribbling, because I've already got dribbling. Drooling. Chunks of doughnut. I'm sticking a drooling mouth onto Timothy's blazer and glasses. That's a nice one. Yeah. Spat. Yeah. Okay. That's all right. I don't know why it's doing that. It's my mouse again. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoy writing this. Pick the nastiest people that you know and put them all together in a character to create your antagonist. Okay. So that's the end of that. Well done. I will see you next week.